One of the questions that our team is most often asked is what's best, a 90-10 dual language program or a 50-50 dual language program? And the answer is both are great. Both are supported by the research, and so much of it really depends on the fidelity with which the dual language program implementation takes place or not, because there are pros and cons to both program models. However, there are a couple of considerations that really can guide our conversations around what suits our community best. And so I want to tackle those at this moment. Consideration number one. What does our community really want and need? Because depending on the communities, the students that we are serving, that is going to really drive those conversations. Remember that the why of dual language is really reparation for those emergent bilingual and multilingual students that we've not done well in serving historically in U.S. classrooms. Connected to that first consideration is how have we involved the community in the decision-making process? Sometimes when we're beginning a dual language program from scratch, we'll make decisions without actually inviting the community to offer input, and so they never fully own that dual language program. Sometimes a district will also start with one program model and then switch to another program model without involving the community again in those decision-making processes. And so then we are retroactively trying to get them involved, but by that point, the community has often lost trust in us because we've made those decisions without them. And then the third and really very important conversation that rarely takes place is the consideration that I want to focus on now. So the third consideration, in my opinion, is so very important and just not talked about enough. What are the systems at the organizational level that are in place or not that will allow for the successful implementation of a dual language program? So what do I mean by this? This means that often we'll focus on conversations around resources or teacher certifications or materials or professional development or state assessment, all conversations that are important, but when not had in connection with systems really are a method of gaslighting the community, because although those are important, none of that will matter if we don't also talk about those systems at the organizational level. So it starts with the board and the superintendent. The board and the superintendent have to own dual language programming. There are some superintendents that feel like it's a feather in their cap to have dual language programs, something to brag about, but they don't fully own biliteracy instruction, which makes it very difficult then for the board and the superintendent to inspire district leaders, who in turn also have to be a part of that ongoing continuous improvement cycle. Because if the superintendent and the board don't own biliteracy instruction, then those district leaders, the chief academic officer, the director of human resources, the coordinator of language arts, the director of science and math, all of those folks need to own biliteracy instruction, because if not, we continue to make decisions at the systems level through a monolingual perspective rather than a holistic biliteracy perspective. At that district level, we have also an additional important conversation: who monitors and mentors campus leadership? Because campus leaders will implement that which their supervisors model and value. And so if that associate superintendent, that chief academic officer, that executive director that mentors campus principals doesn't own biliteracy instruction, then it doesn't really matter whether we have a 90-10 or a 50-50 program, because we've eliminated the opportunity to actually scale all of those biliteracy instructional practices to every campus at the district level. So that's really, really key. If I'm the person that mentors principals, I should be able to walk into a classroom with the principals that I mentor and talk about the differences between a bridge level 1 and a bridge level 2, talk about bilingualism and biliteracy, explain and clarify translanguaging concepts. Because if we do that, then we are setting ourselves up for success in terms of dual language program implementation. And then one of the key things to remember here is that teachers and students will implement that which principals value and monitor and value and model. And so if a campus principal doesn't own biliteracy instruction and dual language programming, it doesn't matter whether it's a 90-10 or a 50-50. That program will never scale to the entire campus. And we see this quite a bit. We'll see teachers that are doing amazing things because teachers and students are great in spite of us, and they will find a way to thrive. But those are the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 classrooms that we always send visitors to, because we know that those are the teachers that are doing the work in spite of the campus and district leadership. And so that system of accountability, that system for implementation, has to start with the board and the superintendent into district leadership, that then comes down to the campus leadership, and then finally into the classroom. That is how we scale by literacy instructional programming and dual language program implementation. 90-10, 50-50. I've seen great models for both. I've seen weak models for both. So it comes down to those 3 considerations. I hope this is helpful. Adios.